Ricardo Pepi did not play, or he played very sparingly at the very end for Augsburg this past weekend in their loss at home. What are you saying about, let's just say in the Bundesliga, and Americans in Bundesliga, what are you thinking about Ricardo Pepi at the moment?
I mean, dude, I've been through what he's going through, and he's a striker. And I was playing left midfield or left back when we were in a relegation battle in the Bundesliga. There is no joy in that. There is no development in what we were doing. Yeah, you kill each other on the training pitch. The players are all fighting to get on the field. They're trying to get bonuses. It makes you a better person, maybe not a better person, but a better, more rounded player. But he's a striker, right? Like, my job as a defender is really all just, you can do a lot of things, but it can still be a subjective experience. The striker's just going to be judged on whether or not he scores goals, right? Especially when they have the money that they've spent on him. Yes, he's young and they know that, but they're in a relegation fight, right? They're going to go with whoever they have to go with that they think is going to get them the results that keep them in the league, because there's millions and millions and millions of dollars at stake to get it right. And so if he's off, or he's not finishing, or he's not confident, or any of these things, he's going to fall down the pecking order. And that sucks, because in most other clubs, and people, we talk about like, oh yeah, put players in these high stress environments and it'll make them better. Yeah, in the long run, it'll make him better. But in the short term, it's hurting the national team that he's at a club that's fighting relegation. And it makes his odds of starting as a young player who's barely proven anything much harder if he has a dip in form. And so for me, when I think about him in general, I still continue to wonder, like, man, what was the decision around going to this club for a young player like that? When, granted, there's a lot of clubs that probably couldn't afford him at his age, and almost, whatever, 20 plus million, plus probably some additional kind of fees if he scores those goals. But man, it worries me. I mean, what's your take on him being there in a situation like that?
I think that we're seeing a little bit, and to somebody's comment, he did well in his 10 minutes. I mean, every time he's come on, you can see why they signed him. You can see his talent every time he comes on. Are his touches? Yeah, we want them to be a little bit cleaner. Can he connect with his teammates a little bit better? Can they give him better service? Yes, to all the above there. But I think the most important thing is you can see why he's a special player. And now it's just a matter of continue to get assimilated into the team and into the style of the league and the pace of the league.
But is it the same, Jimmy, in 6 months if they go down or even stay up? I mean, Augsburg's still going to be Augsburg, right? Like, they're never going to be a team that's pushing for one of like the top 8 positions. They're going to be a team that 1 year maybe is top half of the table, 1 year is in the middle, 1 year is in fighting relegation. I mean, where's the upside for him? Scoring double-digit goals and then getting sold on?
Well, I think that was the plan. I mean, I think you were making an investment in him. That's what I always thought. I mean, Augsburg was never going to be his final destination.
But at 20 million, Jimmy, I think he'd have to score almost 20 goals to like start to, or say 16, 17, 18 goals when you start, if you're going to go from 20 to the next thing.
Right. No, I get it. But I'm just saying that I think there's some marketing angle here too, where all of a sudden Augsburg becomes a little bit more, recognized in the States. And that's obviously working, because we never talk about Augsburg otherwise. And now we talk about them all the time. What I'll say though, very quickly, is the Bruno Guimaraes signing for Newcastle, right? He comes very highly touted from Lyon. And then all of a sudden, that team goes on a 5-game unbeaten streak, Newcastle. They win 3 straight games, and Eddie Howe, the manager, doesn't want to change anything. Because in some ways, finally, Newcastle, these players have pressure for their jobs. If you're not good enough, we're going to go buy somebody that's better. And that is what I think is happening at Augsburg a little bit, especially with Gregoritsch up top. Because since Pepi's been in the team, he has scored 4 goals. I'm looking at it right now. 4 goals in his last 6 games. And not to say he wasn't scoring before, but I think that's lit a fire under some of these players that, hey, we got this young kid. We just paid a lot for him. We're going to play him at some point. But if you play so well, if you're starting ahead of him, that you're almost undroppable, that becomes a little bit harder. If Pepi has a day where he doesn't train very well, or in his minutes he doesn't do a lot, it just kind of creates a little bit of a gap that maybe, and puts some doubt in the coach's mind that maybe Pepi's not ready yet, and that bums us out, obviously, because we need a number 9 as sharp as possible for this upcoming window.
Yeah, but here's my thing about Augsburg in general, Jimmy, is that they play a few different styles of play, but what they generally do play with is 2 strikers, and he's not getting time in a 2-striker system. And I would love to see him playing a 2-striker system with the national team. I would love to see players running off of him, but his style of play closer to Gregoritsch's and whatever. And he's still a teenager, and he's still a kid, and he's still got a lot to figure out. And he went from super high linked to every big club in the world, to a team that's fighting relegation on a huge transfer fee. It almost feels like this perfect cocktail. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be an unbelievable striker for the national team for a very long time. He's just in a situation, which was, like you said, worst case scenario, where the player that he's competing with is now scoring because you brought in this young, spring chicken. And now you've got a bunch of people that are fighting for their lives and bonuses and a team that's fighting to stay up. They're in the playoff position now for the relegation playoff position now, but it's not a pretty situation to be in, Jimmy. I'm telling you, I've been in that. It's very, very stressful, and it's not fun, and it's not enjoyable, and it's not like he came from MLS where it's a positive environment more often than not. Even when things are bad, you're still working towards something. You're still 3 wins away from being back in a playoff position and all those kinds of things, right? Unless you're in a really, really bad place in MLS, it's a pretty positive environment. And then you add that to the hype of a kid who's only really played 1 full season. It's a very different environment. It'll make him a fantastic and a much better player. But at this moment, I guarantee you he's not having very much fun right now.
But isn't that the whole impetus for wanting to have our players leave MLS to go to Europe, is so they can get
big time,
so they can get punched in the face, get back up, and then we're going to figure out what type of player we actually have on our hands. And so that's it, right? And that's what we're going through right now. And so I think it's a great thing for you. I'm with you 100%. It's going to make him so much better moving forward, but it has to hurt right now because now he's got to figure out, who am I, what am I about, and how do I it's the biggest question. If you're a professional athlete, how do you regain your confidence when you don't have any? Where do you get that from when you're not feeling good and you're insecure? That is, the ones that can crack that nut and figure out a way to kind of fake it until they make it are the ones that end up having the longest careers. That's what I'm going to add to that.
The last thing I'll say on Ricardo Pepi is the other American that played at Augsburg was Michael Parkhurst. Do you know when Michael Parkhurst went to Augsburg? When he was 29 years old. And that's the difference now between these players. We are arguing as whether or not a 20 million euro signing who's 18, 19 years old now is going to make it or not. And that's the new standard that we've set. Doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that what we're saying is okay, but the standard has been set, right? There's a new standard. We're after the break, we're going to talk about players in the knockout rounds of the Champions League, most of which that are at the top of the list or will be at the top of the list are young players playing now with still 7-8 years of upside. And that's the thing I like about Ricardo Pepi. This is a moment in time that's going to help shape him as a striker, as opposed to him going and maxing out in the Bundesliga at the peak of his career at a team that's fighting relegation. We are past that moment, and so his upside is incredible, but we're going through a tough moment with him right now where every game and every minute and every month matters towards his development, and he's struggling a bit.